Howdy, gang, and welcome to another edition of Apples and Oranges. I expect that this one will be a fun one. Of course, that depends on who you ask, right? Because we're going to be talking about 1980s Terror on Tour, which is technically a rock horror film or a rock horror slasher, whatever you want to refer to it as. But it has been my impression that this is also one of the most hated slasher films of the 1980s, mainly by people in the same circles that I'm in. Primarily CK and Uncle Bill, who I just saw a little clip someone sent me where basically they're not going to come on and talk about Terror on Tour with me unless I join their Patreon. So it's not payday yet, so I cannot join their Patreon right now. You know, little on the broke side right now, so can't be joining anybody's Patreon or doing anything else for that matter. Uh, TJ, you say most brought up by the same person over and over, rock slasher R. Well, I like the movie, TJ. I know you're being facetious there. Hey, Blissful. Um, I'll probably keep bringing it up until my dying day because I like it. Well, howdy, Uncle Bill. Are you gonna relent and come on here? Because this gal's broke right now. I can't join anybody's Patreon right this second. So if you want to come on, let me know. I'll make sure anybody gets the link that wants to come on and discuss Terror on Tour. We've already got 12 people in here watching, so um, I'm the only one that talks about it ad nauseum, but that's my yeah. Yes, it most certainly is my thing, TJ. Uh, I could borrow $1 from Steve Mayer. Am I going to relent and join the Patreon like I said I would? Eventually, Uncle Bill, but Rome wasn't built in a day, was it? So, anyway, I think Dead Pit just needs to stay posted on that and see, if I join or not. Um, now you're using some of Blissful's emojis, the the face palm there. Okay. All right. Before I add Chris on here, because Chris is waiting patiently in the wings there for me to add him, I just want to remind everybody that I am going to be doing if all goes well, I'll be doing a triple threat review show tomorrow night for Seductive Poison, The Resurgence. And I will be covering this. You want to talk about a crazy movie? Butcher Baker Nightmare Maker. I'm going to be talking about that with Susan Terrell. We're going to be talking about Candyman and Cannibal Ferox. So, going to be kind of a mixed bag of films tomorrow night. Now, on Friday, you will get to see me twice. Aren't you guys and gals lucky? Because I will be doing a Terror Time tea at about 11:45 a.m. Eastern Time on Friday. And then me and Candace will be coming on at 1 p.m. Eastern Time for Friday Foolish. And we're going to be talking about weird and unique foods. So if you want to come on there and talk about weird and unique foods that you like, or maybe some that somebody else likes that you hate, and you can explain why you hate it. If you want to come on, be sure to let me know, and I'll make sure you get the link for that. And also, if you don't feel comfortable, coming in live on the stream, I'm still going to get Blissful live on one of these streams at some point in time. You can always come in the chat and share your favorite weird and unique foods. Uh, How you know whether I spent $90 on those shitty fright rags, Uncle Bill? And by the way, I don't think they're shitty. I've got their shirt, one of their shirts on right now. This is for season 6 of The Last Drive-In. Um, I didn't say I couldn't spend a few bucks, just not right now. Yeah, I know, Mayor. I did probably promise them months ago, but there's still time. Like I said, Rome wasn't built in a day. Uh, TJ says, yeah, Deb Pitt has only had a Patreon for like 10 years. Give her a break. Blissful says, Mayor True, she even made them not say anything bad about Joe Bob. Oh, you traitor, Blissful. You're like hopping on the bandwagon. And I'm kidding about that. I did promise you. And it stands to reason that I have not broke that promise. I just haven't committed to my promise yet. Oh boy, oh boy, oh boy. Okay. This is going to get completely derailed about whether I join the Dead Pit Patreon or not. Chris said she promised me that she'd whoop your ass, UP. Oh, TJ's asking if Chris has seen this movie. I suspect he may have. But when I get him on here, we'll get his take on it. No, please, Uncle Bill, don't start a chant. All right. So anyway, I am going to go ahead and add Chris. Hey, Chris.
Hey, Dana. How's it going?
Good, except people are berating me for not joining the Dead Pit Patreon.
Well, they can berate me too because I'm not a member either.
Oops. You don't want to say that in this.
I shouldn't have to be swindled into subscribing to such a thing.
We've been friends with these guys for years, ain't we, Chris?
They attended my wedding. That I should receive that shit for free.
Yeah, we've been good friends of you guys. We should get things for free.
No, I don't really fool with Patreon that much. I've never really been even on there. Like even like as big of a Joe Bob fan as I am, I'm not even subscribed to their Patreon.
See, I think that's the thorn in Uncle Bill and CK's side is that I did join, but I joined Joe Bob's a long time ago. And I'm not saying that they don't offer cool stuff, but I get Blu-rays every few months from Darcy that's got a lot of cool stuff on it. I've gotten shirts and hoodies and tote bags and just any number of things.
Yeah, I know about all those perks and stuff, but just I don't know, like got so much going on, Dana, as far as like everything else we subscribe to and stuff. And I know just a few dollars wouldn't hurt, and I probably eventually will, to be honest with you, both Dead Pits and Joe Bob's. But just like I said, like I've never really fooled with Patreon that much, or even kind of like looked at it and just to what because like with the Joe Bob stuff, I know there's like stuff on. I think there's like the Monster Vision episodes and stuff like that. But
yeah.
like, I've not looked much into it to see what all's included. So I don't know. One of these days.
But yeah, I understand about like I couldn't join it at first, even Joe Bob's. I had to wait a little bit before I could. I don't pay 36, I pay 35. Get it right, Wes. Come on.
I'm just the type of person that like even though they like Uncle Bill said it just starts at $1 bowls. Well, the thing is, I will give you that dollar or possibly more whenever I'm ready to use it. Cause like I'm the type of person like I can't just go and subscribe something and then not like use it. Cause like
Mhm.
if I'm gonna go subscribe, I'm gonna be using it then and there, and know that it's gonna be worth it to me. Which a dollar is worth it, I guess. If it depending what all was. I don't even know what was included in that dollar. A reach
Well,
around,
here,
maybe.
here's your time to shine, boys. Tell Chris what he can get for $1.
Yeah, what can I get for a dollar besides a big red over at the Yugo here in Has? Because that's about it. There ain't much you can get for a dollar anymore.
Why don't somebody give me some money? Why don't everybody go on over to deaditesondeck.com and buy some shirts and some candles? Why don't you guys go over there and do that for me?
Why, yeah, do that. The challenge has
Uh,
been thrown down, son.
Uncle Bill, you can get Savannah a candle. I know she likes horror movies, so I know she'd love those candles. You could get you a shirt. You can get you some tea. I'm gonna be making freaking blended teas for goodness sakes. Um,
So Wes says the dollar gets you your name on the end of the videos and access to the Discord. I don't even use Discord, so that's useless to me.
but for $5, you get the archives with exclusive podcasts.
Yeah, that's cool. That's probably what I will go because I really miss listening to a lot of those older shows from like 15 years ago when I got into listening to Dead Pit. So that's probably the one I'll go for because I ain't worried about being a baller and shot caller and I ain't even got hardly time to listen to free commentaries, Dana, let alone ones I got to pay for.
Yeah, I know. Oh gosh, Blissful's bringing up drunk Dana again. Please, for the love of God, don't bring up drunk Dana anymore.
Yeah, that's true, Bliss.
He
Well, I
ran
could
up.
watch that, right? Because I don't think I've ever I've heard Dana talk about it multiple times and the Dead Pit Boys talk about it, but
One
I've
of
never
my great
actually seen it.
shames in life. Mm-mm.
Yeah, Rambo. Hey, Rambo's back in here. Just don't
Yeah,
succumb.
he says don't succumb to peer pressure, Dana. Don't do it. Oh, Wes is really like he's telling you about all the tiers. He says for $10 you get all that plus the fan commentary and participation links to join us for commentaries and roundtable discussions.
Well, that's cool.
Okay, Wes, I mean, y'all are not giving me a chance to keep my word. Because Wes says it's not peer pressure, it's her keeping her word.
But Dana, speaking of getting stuff, speaking of
Uh-huh.
perks, I got some stuff in the mail today I'd like to show.
Oh, cool. Yeah.
So I am a subscriber to Horror Hound magazine, and I did get their newest issue in the mail today, and I think it's one that you would appreciate, Dana.
Oh, boy. Ooh,
And
that's
it
nice.
is a Evil Dead 2 retrospective, and
Mhm.
I've already checked it out, and it's awesome. It's got like all like the toys and
Uh-huh.
everything like they could possibly put in there. It's I think it's one that you'd appreciate, Dana, for sure. Um, but I also got this shirt that I forgot that I pre-ordered like 2 months ago. So it showed up today, and I was like, "Oh, that's cool."
Ooh, does it glow in the dark, Chris?
Yeah, it does.
Okay, cool.
And they're on the top. It says "Guaranteed to jack you up," which is a line by Josh Hartnett in the film. And
Uh-huh.
on the bottom it says, let's see, "Meet the Alien Generation." And yeah, that's probably my favorite '90s horror movie. From yeah, it's my favorite '90s horror movie. The Faculty. It's you know some people would think it's the original Scream for me, which I do
Mhm.
love Scream. I have a tattoo of Ghostface on my arm, um, but as far as all like 90s horror goes, yeah, Faculty is definitely is way up there for me. I love it.
I
Got
haven't
Prince
seen
Eric.
the faculty for a while, but I do remember liking it though.
Man, it's killer. I love it. You know, that was one of the very few horror films that Elijah Wood did, which I don't know. Well, he's done quite a few more now. He did Maniac here in the last few years, and he did this one movie. It's not really like a horror movie. It's more of like a thriller. It's called Open Windows.
Oh
Have you
yeah.
seen that one?
I haven't seen it. I've heard of it though.
It's pretty good. I liked it. And then, of course, I guess you consider The Good Son a horror film too.
Yeah.
I do. I don't know about anybody else, but
I mean, it's definitely got those horrific elements in it. Uh, well, Rainbow, we're gonna get to that. I promise. I am gonna step away for just a second. I'm making some clotted cream in the Instapot, and if people don't know what clotted cream is, I'll explain when I come
okay.
back. Chris has
Yeah,
no
I'm confused. I don't know what that is. But yeah, well, one of these days, me and Dana will both be on the Dead Pit Patreon wagon. And I'll lay that down right now and say that's my promise, and I'm not one to break promises, boss. Uh, just gotta get. I got a lot of stuff going on right now that in my like financially that I can't even get into. Um, but yeah, so even though I got this cool stuff in the mail today, like that was prepaid for months ago, and right now I'm in no way, shape, or form in a situation where I can buy more shit for my own personal enjoyment. But yeah, I'll just leave it at that.
All right. So clotted cream is heavy whipping cream that you basically, if you have an Instapot, you can put heavy whipping cream in the Instapot for about 10 hours. It takes a while. And then you basically skim off the fat that comes to the top, and then you've got this nice, luscious cream underneath there. And you can put that on biscuits, or, you can do like the British people do and put it on scones and uh, biscuits and the English biscuits, which are different than the American biscuits, of course.
Okay, yeah, I know what this stuff is now. Candace has made that before,
Yeah, I think
and
I think
I didn't know it was called that.
yeah, she said, "Yes, you do, Chris. I've made it.
Oh,
We
she
had it
say
at
it?
my tea party birthday."
Yeah, yeah. She's probably, and she honestly, she's probably told me what it was called, but I just probably didn't care enough to remember. To be honest.
And Wes, I really can't remember how much the. I'd have to go back and look at what I spent because I got two shirts and the flexi disc, and you let me know that basically that flexi disc was a shitty piece of crap. Uh, which I knew it wasn't going to be anything spectacular. It's basically a record, but it's really thin, like a plastic material. I may not even play it. I may just keep it around for, collectability reasons. But I did get this shirt and I got a John Carpenter He Who Walks by Night shirt that I thought was pretty cool from Fright Rags. What do you want me to do? Make all my own shirts? I mean, I made a couple of Robert
Yeah,
Englund shirts.
that's the point, Dana. You got to make everything on your own.
It may come down to that. But Rambo does want to know. He says he's sincerely curious. Why do you like Terror on Tour, Dana? I've seen that film and I didn't like anything about it. Yeah, I saw your review, Rambo. Rainbow didn't like it at all. TJ says, "Hey, Fright Rags purchases come with a piece of candy and a sticker and a trading card." They do. I like the candy, by the way. It's that toxic waste apple candy. It's
And I'll mention something because I was watching that stream after you on the replay last night, Dana, when you were showing that stuff off you got in the mail. And yeah, like Fright Rags, they come with like a card and a sticker. And honestly, like the shirts are cool and everything, but that's one of my favorite things when if I've ordered something from Fright Rags is getting those stickers, really cool stickers and cards. And I really like that carry card that you got with in your
yeah,
package.
that one's pretty cool. I haven't gotten that one before.
And,
Sometimes we get doubles
and
on.
that is something that I have emailed Fright Rags in the past about, because they have like tons and tons of different designs that they put on those cards and those stickers. And I emailed them and I said, why don't you guys just like offer a like selection of like stickers and cards on the website too, that you can pay for, whatever you want, like $2 or whatever you guys are going to ask for them. And I don't know who it was that emailed me back. There's just like, we don't have enough like bandwidth on the page to put all of that stuff on there. Blah, blah, blah. I'm like, I don't know. That sounds like an excuse to me, because I mean, like that would be a good business opportunity for them, I think, because that's something I would be interested in buying, is like stickers and cards. Because I'm a card guy in general. That was something else I got in the mail that I didn't show. Is I actually got two complete sets of cards today that I ordered from eBay. One from the Beetlejuice cartoon and an Elvira card set from 1996. But yeah,
Cool.
that's something I really love, trading cards. And I'll if in case that's something that nobody knows about me other than probably Candace, because she's like, "Why you got all these cards for around here?" I'm like, "Well, I like them. That's why."
Hey, Christy, and hey, Batman. Well, thank you, Batman. You say, you know what? I never seen Tara on tour, and I'm going to support it. And Wes, if you knew how much I spent on the shirts, he sat there and added that shit up for no apparent reason other than to call me out on the street. He said it was close to $100. Well, if it was close to $100, I trust you on that, but I don't see why you would waste your time adding it up. You're not going to buy it.
And something else, Dana. I mean, like, and I'm not gonna shit on Fright Rags because I have several Fright Rags shirts and stuff.
Me too.
But the guy that runs it, Ben, is really super nice, because they were at the last Horror Hound, and I bought one of those cups from them of the Reanimator, and they were like
souvenir cups.
Yeah, the souvenir cups, and they were like $5 a piece. And so I had my a Fright Rags Joe Bob shirt on that day, and when I bought that Reanimator cup, he just goes like to the back. He said, "Hold on, I got something else for you," and he gave me the Joe Bob souvenir cup for free, like just because I had my Joe Bob shirt on. And I was like, "Oh, thanks, man, I appreciate that."
Mm-hmm.
But I do have to agree with Wes and Aaron though on one thing, is these prices are getting out of hand on their shirts. And it's getting hard. Like, there's a lot of designs on there I would love to have. Like Nathan Milliner they just put a new Vincent Price shirt on there yesterday.
Right.
I believe it was yesterday or maybe the day before, which is Nathan Milliner's artwork on the shirt. And I love it. I'd like to have it, but it's just right now I'm not in the position that I could pay that kind of money for a shirt.
Right.
And honestly, there's a lot of designs that I think are even better for like certain movies on TeePublic that I can get for a lot cheaper. But but it's just it's how times are nowadays, Dana. Like everything's going up, and I'm sure at some point TeePublic will raise the price on their shirts. But it's just how everything is,
Yeah, and the thing about TeePublic is from a seller standpoint, is that, I've still got stuff on TeePublic, but I can't make any freaking money that way
Yeah,
because
I
all
get
they
that
give me is
too.
$2 a shirt. $2 a shirt. I can make more for myself by making them myself and shipping them
And
out.
now, does that work the same way, like through Etsy too? Like you have to give Etsy like a certain amount back
Um,
off of what you make?
Etsy, and I don't want Candace to feel bad because I know Candace was thinking about getting into the Etsy business with some of her stuff, but I felt like Etsy nickled and dimed me to death. It'd be a few cents here for this, a few cents here for that. But
Mhm.
I was the one making the stuff. I was the one that was shipping it out. They weren't doing any of that legwork. TeePublic at least, takes your design and turns it into a shirt.
Right.
Um, but really all Etsy was doing was giving you a place to have your shop. I mean,
Yes,
essentially.
it's I guess Etsy is more used for just like um I don't know. I'm not that making t-shirts is not creative or anything, but I mean
Mhm.
like more like like just
Handmade. Like,
yeah, I guess like handmade stuff
mhm.
like sculptures, statues, figurines. Even I mean, well, some of the stuff that you make too would even like I've seen people have shops for on there like the candles and stuff like that. So
Mhm.
um, yeah.
Um, Rainbow's wanting to know how did me and you first meet Wes and UB. He says he never heard the story. Do you want to go first or you want me
Yeah,
to?
yeah, I know mine right away. So, um, I have a friend. His name's Justin Owens. You might remember him from the early days of Dead Pit on the message boards and stuff. Um, but he was into the same type of like horror films and stuff that I was. That's how me and him became friends. And then I remember one day he just said, Have you heard of Dead Pit Radio?" And I was like, "No, what is that?" He said, "Well, they're actually based out of Prestonsburg." I was like, "Really? No shit." And he's like, "Yeah." He's like, "They're the first ever like horror podcast or horror talk radio out there." I was like, "Oh, really? That's cool." So I just started listening to them, and it was just I guess it's just because the my connection to them, like how I felt connected was, you know, because I lived in the same area as they did, and I could relate to a lot what they were saying, like how stuff like that is normally in our area frowned upon, and like look, because we live right in the middle of the Bible Belt, and anything a lot of people in this area will look at that stuff as satanic and devil worshiping and stuff like that, as they would say. So I that's why I really like those guys so much, and that's why they appealed to me because they were from the area. They knew exactly how I felt about like I was being judged a lot of the time for the clothes I wear, for the movies I watch, the music I listen to. Um, and then as far as meeting them in person, me and Justin actually went to a TNA wrestling event in Pikeville. And after the event let out and everybody was walking through the halls to exit the building, I saw Wes. And I think he was with his dad, if I'm not mistaken. Well, he was with Mike. And again, Mike is one of the coolest human beings I've ever met in my life. Um, But yeah, we just stood and talked for a little bit, and I introduced myself, and then like it went from there. Like when I would call into the show, just listen to their stuff every week. Um, and as far as meeting Uncle Bill for the first time, I believe it might have been at Fright Night Film Fest 2009 when I met, and that's where I met a lot of the people that I would end up becoming friends with. I believe that's where I first met you, Dana. That's where I first met Steve.
Mhm.
It's where I first met Chris Lax and a lot of the people that were involved with the Dead Pit message board at that time. And I know during that time when I joined, I believe Rambo was already a member of the message board. But unfortunately, I've not got to meet him in person as of yet. I don't think Rambo does conventions or anything like that. I don't think that's really his style, at least from what I've heard him say in the past. But that could have changed. I don't know if I'm wrong. Correct me, Rambo. But yeah, like I said, I made a lot of my friends that I've had for 15 years now through the Dead Pit community and all that. So yeah.
Well, I'll have to go back to the last half of 2008, or like the last quarter of 2008. Um, I had just gotten into, well, I had just discovered that people were even doing horror podcasts. And I was listening to one that I can't even remember the name of now. But I used to also frequent IMDb quite a bit to read reviews of movies, see what other people were saying about different movies. And I, for the life of me, cannot remember the person's name that put this as their signature, but they had done a review for a movie on IMDb, and then at the end of it, it said, "If I'm not on IMDb, I'm listening to Dead Pit Radio." And then they actually had a link to the guy's site, and I was just curious, and I clicked on it, and I was just amazed. And then when I found out they were from Kentucky, I was like, wow, somebody from my home state is actually doing something cool like this. And so I started listening to them the end of 2008. And then during 2009, of course, that's when I went to Fright Night and Scarefest for the first time. And I met the guys at Fright Night. And I remember Uncle Bill's birthday was that weekend. So I brought him a couple of birthday
You got a
presents.
better memory than I do, Dana, because I sure don't remember it being Uncle Bill's birthday.
Yeah, I remember it was his birthday that weekend. Because I'm pretty sure Fright Night took place in August that year, and um, it just happened to be right smack dab in the middle of Uncle Bill's birthday weekend. So,
Wait a minute. I do remember that now, Dana,
mhm,
because I remember I bought something at that convention to give him as a birthday gift, and it
mhm.
was a Dr. Giggles comic book, and I gave it to him as a birthday gift. But I completely forgot till you mentioned all that, Dana. I completely forgot about that stuff.
I remember one thing I got Uncle Bill, and I don't even know if Uncle Bill still has this, but I found a Dawn of the Dead clock that had the machete zombie on it. And it actually had a machete, not a real machete, but a machete coming out of the clock like it was,
I'll be
going
right back.
into it.
I think I got that same clock that you're talking about. Let me see if it's
Oh,
the same one.
cool. I
Give
hope
me,
it is.
give me 1 second.
Okay. I'm going to look through the rest of these messages here. But um, in a nutshell, Rambo, that's basically how I met the guys, and I had chatted with them online too before Fright Night as well. Um, Uncle Will, you say, think about this: for $60 a year, which is less than two shirts, you have access to every show we ever did. I know, Uncle Bill. I know.
So, Dana, is this the same clock?
Well, it's similar, but the one that I got for Uncle Bill was actually larger. It was more like a wall clock,
Oh, okay.
and
Yeah,
it
'cause
actually had. I see the machete zombie there in the corner. It
mhm.
basically had the machete zombie's face in there, and then it had like a plastic machete coming out of the
Oh,
clock.
okay.
Yeah, but that
Um,
one's cool too.
yeah, I actually got this one on eBay like years ago, probably close to 20 years ago or something.
Mayor says, I have not seen, or I have seen Terror on Tour, and I'm not supporting it. And if you had, you wouldn't either. Rainbow says SPN can try to watch it, but most of it you might need night vision to see what's going on. So seeing it really isn't seeing it anyway, maybe for a good reason.
I don't know that like I watched the movie for the first time today, and that version that's on YouTube, I mean, was pretty good
The version
quality.
that I saw today was probably about the best I've seen. That must be a newer one that somebody put out.
No idea. It looked fine to me. I mean, it's obviously, I mean, it's not as up to par as like other films that came out during that time, because it doesn't feel like that this film had a really big budget. But I mean, the quality looked fine to me. Like I said, I'm the type of person that's not super picky about quality of like the video quality of films or what format it's on or anything. So yeah.
I gotta read this that Rainbow put. He says, "Yep, I sent an 8-page fan letter with 30 questions the first time
Jesus.
on the forum." And he says, "Nah, he's never done conventions."
Yeah, I didn't
Oh,
think
Darren.
so. It's probably for the best, Rambo. You've never done conventions because it's a money pit, man.
Basically, it is. All right, so we're finally 38 minutes into this thing. We're finally going to get to the matter at hand. And Uncle Bill, Wes, y'all are missing out, but I ain't even going to go there anymore. So I can't win, just like they can't win with me. Um, so what I want to do is start out, because I'm curious to hear what Chris thinks of this movie. So I'm going to give you the floor, Chris, and I want you to be as honest as you possibly can be about this film.
Okay, and this is 100% honesty, and it may surprise you. So I guess I should start saying that I'm on the fence about this
Mhm.
ve,
Right.
and because I didn't hate it. I didn't hate it at all. I've seen a lot worse.
Hmm.
I mean, I've actually seen some films recently that I liked a lot less than Terror on Tour. Um, and the band in the I think one of the things I liked about the film was the band, the Clowns, which is an obvious ripoff of Kiss.
Yeah.
And that kind of appealed to me because Kiss is my favorite band of all time. So I always enjoy seeing like little rip-offs and bootlegs of stuff of Kiss. It's always fun to me. Um, Now, as far as like the story goes, the story is a little bit sloppy. And but I I never I hate to spoil anything, but but
It's okay, Chris. You can lay it all out there.
I don't really understand still after watching it what the manager who is revealed to be the killer, the manager of the band, what was his motivation
I
for
think it was just crazy.
I mean, I know there's a point where he's talking to the other guy, like who's like I don't know if he's like a fan or if he's just like a roadie or whatever that kind of follows the band,
Mhm.
and he's explaining to him, it's like about all the girls and stuff they were sleeping with and stuff, and he said they're nothing but whores. They're all whores. So I'm like, is he jealous of these women because he wanted to be the only one that was close to the band? And I don't know. Like,
There
but
is one part where, do you remember where the roadie, Herb, do you remember where he went into Tim, the manager's
mm,
room, and he found that letter from Tim's mom? And she was talking about, there's a lot of temptation and that
oh,
about
okay,
God and about all these things. So I was always led to believe that there was some kind of weird dynamic going on between him and his mother.
I guess I just kind of forgot that part. but yeah, that does make a little bit more sense. But I don't know. Like I said, I don't after watching it, and this is going to be really brief with me because I just don't really have a whole lot to say. Maybe I need to watch it again. But here's the thing, though. While I didn't hate it, I don't really have an interest in watching it again.
Right.
Um,
Which that's fair, Chris. That's
because it wasn't something that held my attention like
mhm.
overly enough. But I mean, from what I seen of it and everything, like I thought it was okay. I mean, I'm not like I said, I'm not. It's not the worst movie I've ever seen. I've seen and the worst movie, and I've said this to you before. The worst movie I've ever seen is Birdemic. That was the absolute worst movie I've ever watched.
Would you say it's at least one of the worst slashers ever made? Because I think that was how Rambo uh,
Well,
described it.
that's possible.
Mm,
I don't know because there's still a lot of slashers out there that I have not seen.
mhm.
So, as of right now, though, yeah, maybe. Um, but like I said, it's not the worst movie I've ever seen. It's not even the worst horror movie I've ever seen.
Right.
Um, but but going back to that, what I said, I also have really no interest in watching it again. I seen it. I do that with a lot of films though. If they don't I don't have a super interest in them. I'm kind of a one and done guy with a lot of films,
Yeah. Right. That makes
and um, but I it has definitely got some memorable stuff in it that I won't. And like I said, the whole band itself, like because it's kind of a mock of Kiss, and that's really the main thing that stands out to me the most. And they also do mention Kiss in the movie because there's a
yeah.
girl that's talking to one of the band members, and she says, "You're better than the Beatles and Kiss." And I was like, "Oh wow, they actually name dropped them in the movie." Um,
I think they mentioned the Stones as well, the Rolling Stones as well.
yeah, I must have missed that one, but I do remember her saying the Beatles and Kiss. I was like, "That's really cool. That's kind of cool." But like, I wonder if there was knowing how even Kiss is my favorite band of all time, but knowing how they are as far as like suing people and all the legal stuff that they go through because they're hardcore on their copyright stuff.
Yeah.
Um, So I'm was interested to know if anything came of that. But overall, Dana, like I said, I'm shocked of all the hate that I've heard. So much like it was the worst movie or worst slasher.
You were probably expecting a lot worse than it was.
Because because I know how Wes Nairn feels. I know how Rambo feels about it. I know I've seen other people like TJ, other people in the chat mention how bad it is. But uh, yeah, I was expecting like, oh God, this is going to be awful. I mean, I don't. Based on what everybody said. I don't know how I'm going to make it through this, but I did. I mean, it was like I think the full movie was like an hour and 20 minutes or something like that. So not super
It's not
long.
super long, no.
Yeah, it's not super long, and but I did think of one that I actually probably do like less than this. That is a slasher movie, and that's Home Sweet Home. Um,
Now, see, that's an odd, not odd that you said that, but it's just odd that, like, I think CK and Uncle Bill both enjoy Home Sweet Home, but
Well,
they
it
hate
is
it.
enjoyable to an extent, for me at least. But it's another one of those films where I've only watched one time, and I felt like I was one and done with that film. So,
Yeah, I
so,
like to watch it around Thanksgiving because in
yeah.
Home Sweet Home, I mean, because it is a Thanksgiving horror film technically, and me and Steve have done a commentary for it. But
Mhm.
I'll be honest with you, I've watched Terror on Tour a lot more than I have Home Sweet Home. Um, and people are probably like, you know. And no offense, guys and gals. I know you guys and gals all have your own opinion, you have your own mind, but isn't there at least a little tiny part of some of you guys and gals that hate on it a little bit more just because CK and Uncle Bill hate on it so much? Come on, let's be honest here. I can be honest about stuff.
Well, I mean, that's just what I mean. I'm not doing this to kiss up to Dana or anything. I'm
And I
being
would rather you not.
yeah,
Yeah.
I'm being 100% honest. And but I think it's there's really no question about it. Like as far as when it comes to CK and Uncle Bill, me and them have disagreed on a lot of films in the past, and even Uncle Bill brought something up in their video they did about an hour or so ago. Because I said The Exorcist 3 is overrated. That's just how I feel. And then Uncle Bill made the comment that he said, "Well, I don't trust Crater's opinion. If somebody that likes the 1990 remake of Night of the Living Dead over the original, buddy, that's just how it is." That's how, I mean, that's
I
just
mean, I could
how I feel. I
definitely
mean,
see somebody saying that.
and
Yeah,
there's no disrespect at all
right.
to George Romero on that, and his film, because I love George Romero. Anybody that knows me should know I love George Romero. Dawn of the Dead is my favorite film, my horror film of all time, and and I love the original Night of the Living Dead. But I mean, I have to be honest because that's just how I feel.
You
Um,
probably had more fun with Savini's version of
I like the story. I like the ending. I like a lot better than the original. I like the more take charge attitude that Barbara has in the film.
Yeah.
I also just liked how it had a whole lot of like cast of characters that I personally enjoyed their films more than some of the people that were in the original Night of the Living Dead. So that appealed to me more, seeing guys like Tony Todd and Bill Moseley and Tom Towles and just all kinds of people like that in the film. Patricia Tallman, because she plays one of the witches in Army of Darkness.
Yep.
And so maybe I'm biased in some ways. I don't know. I mean, I'd have to
I
really.
think we're all biased in certain ways and with certain movies. I just
But
think that's going to
but
happen.
just because I feel that way, there is absolutely no hate on George Romero's Night of the Living Dead, because I love that film so much. Because it innovated a lot of things. It was the pioneer of like the zombie. That's why George Romero is known as the godfather of zombies. Um, so, but it's just a personal preference. I'm not saying that 1990 remake is a better film by any means. It's just what I prefer.
Right. And, I'm thinking back to watching High Fidelity again, and there was a scene in High Fidelity where um, John Cusack asked Jack Black. He gets on him for getting on the character of Dick in the movie. He's calling bullshit to Dick because Dick likes something better. He says he prefers it. And he goes, bullshit. And John Cusack says, how can it be bullshit to state a preference?
Yeah, and
So
that's
that brings up a good point. I think sometimes we forget that. We get all worked up over things.
and that's kind of the whole basis of like um John Cusack's character, what he does throughout the whole his whole top five, because it's his top five.
Right.
And it doesn't necessarily going to be the same if somebody else gave their top five. And I love how that played into the story of High Fidelity, because in the end, he creates his own record label called Top Five Records.
Mhm.
So yeah, great movie, probably my favorite John Cusack film of all time.
Now, Mayor, I didn't, and TJ, I know y'all said you could care less what CK and Uncle Bill think. This is your own opinion of the movie, and I respect that. Um, I just said some people might, you know, they may jump on the bandwagon when I say something's great. But that's why I always try to encourage people, don't just go by what I say. If I say something is the greatest thing since sliced bread, I don't want you to just take my opinion.
Mhm.
Do a little research. Watch it yourself. Don't just, take what one person or a couple of people says
Mhm.
about it.
Yeah,
Uh,
I think that's important to hear different takes on films or anything, for that matter in general. Just that because sometimes, uh, other people's opinions can help you look at things in a different way,
oh,
and it can change your opinion, but sometimes it doesn't either. Like, I have been on both sides of that. There have been things where, people have said, and it's changed my opinion on a film or whatever it is we're talking about at the time. And then there's times that it doesn't change my opinion.
mhm.
Now, I'll use Candace for example.
Uh-oh, Candace, look out.
I in my life, my up until the point that I met Candace, had zero interest in watching The Sound of Music
Right.
because I wasn't really interested in musicals other than like, Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory and just a few others. And just everything I had seen on like TV and stuff of like with when they would show clips of The Sound of Music, I'm like, that doesn't look like something I would watch, or something I'm interested in. But I'm glad that Candace actually made me sit down and watch the movie, because it is a absolutely fantastic film, and it's one that I would I get that feeling to where like I like this so much I would watch this again and again, and there's films like that that I don't feel it. And Terror on Tour was one of them, unfortunately. Um, but yeah, just that just shows that just because you have an opinion on something, that doesn't mean that that opinion can't change.
Right. And then doesn't mean that your opinion is gonna just naturally rub off on everybody.
Right, right.
No matter how passionate I am about Terror on Tour or any other movie, I could talk up on this live stream till I was blue in the face and passed out or had a brain hemorrhage. That is not gonna make it's not gonna make TJ like it automatically. It's not gonna make Mayor like it. It's not gonna make CK and Uncle Bill like it. That has to be their own progression if they choose to have that progression. And I'm not on this stream tonight to tell people you got to like Terror on Tour. I would never do that. I would never think that
You
I would.
better like it, or Dana will block you from her channel forever. No.
But, honestly, Mayor, I respect your opinion to call it a straight up piece of shit, but I just don't feel like it is. Personally, I don't feel like it's a piece of shit. And TJ was talking about the cinematography. I can't judge a movie like this based on
Yeah, I'm
cinematography.
sorry.
I
That's
can't.
I think TJ might have been joking there, like just being
I hope so.
sarcastic. But yeah, because there's
I
really
hope nobody thinks I'm trying to say that
yeah, I
that's
mean it
like
ain't like
sarcastic.
friggin' Dean Cundy did the cinematography on this or anything or anybody like that.
Oh man. Um, Batman says, I'm only supporting Tara on tour not to kiss Dana's ass, but I'm going the opposite of what CKUB and others are saying. And that's your prerogative too, Batman. I mean, Darren says, I can't defend Tara on tour, but Final Exam is one of my favorite slashers. And see, the boys shit all over Final Exam as well. And
That's
me and
another one
Darren
I've
both
never
like.
seen.
I think you can watch. Well, you could watch that one on Shudder, but I can't remember. Do you
Mhm.
have Shudder,
I
Chris?
do. Oh yeah, of course I do.
Oh, that's right, 'cause you watch Joe Bob. Duh. Okay. But I think at one time I think it's still on Shudder, so you might be able to watch a pretty decent quality version on Shudder.
Yeah, I see it on there, and I've seen it for years, and like you talk about it, and Deb Pitt talk about it, and a lot of people just I've seen all kinds of stuff, like as far as like the posters and things like that at conventions,
Mhm.
and I don't know what I think I'm just like the biggest procrastinator in the world when it comes to some films and stuff because it would probably shock you and a lot of other people um, how many films that I've not seen that are talked about and are popular and just or have cult followings um, because I there's just so many out there. I mean, I've seen a lot of stuff
Mhm.
in my day, and but there's just like I mean, there's so many thousands and thousands and thousands of films out there. I mean, it's possible to watch everything. Um, and I would love to be able to. I would love to have the time to where I could just sit and watch
Oh
movies
my gosh.
all the time because that's
Yeah,
one of my biggest passions. But yeah, one of these days I'm gonna watch. Like I said, I said I would watch Terror on Tour one of these days.
and
And
you
today
did.
was that day.
Yes, it was.
So one of these days, I'll watch Final Exam and other stuff, Scarface, Godfather, stuff I've never seen before.
Yeah, I'd
But
love to hear your opinions on movies like that, what you thought of. Now, we were talking about, movies that people would probably be shocked that we haven't seen. One time my mom said to me, she said, Dana, you've probably seen just about every horror movie he's ever made. And I said, no, Mom, not even close.
it's,
I've seen a lot, but
it's insane how many there are. I mean, like I said, you can go and like search keywords to find films on the Tubi app.
mm,
And I think I told you this before, like when it was around the time when you and Candace were doing like the Killer Clowns
yeah.
Friday Foolish episode. You I just went on to Tubi and searched clown, and majority of the films that popped up were horror films with clowns in them, and there was at least 40 to 50
Yeah.
different just clown horror films like Clown NATO and just a bunch of stuff that I had never heard of in my life.
Mhm.
I was like, wow. I
If
said,
you go digging, you'll find
and
no telling how much stuff.
but you know how Candace is with clowns, and I was like, I can guarantee you won't watch even half of these ever.
Bless her heart. And I made her do that killer clown show.
Yeah, that's the
Oh,
irony of it all.
TJ asked, Dana, do you think you can like a movie more if other people hate it vehemently? Well, I believe that that's possible, TJ. But in the case of Terror on Tour, I saw it long before I was hanging out in these circles. And I had no idea people even hated it this bad. I was just like, oh, I found another slasher movie to watch. That's what I was thinking. And Terror on Tour for me was just a blind buy. I saw it on an auction and I was like, and this was the VHS. And I was like, well, it doesn't cost very much if I win it. Then, I guess it's meant for me to watch it. So I did win it. I mean, I paid no more than a few bucks. It was under $10, I know. And some people would say, well, anything you spend on that movie would be too much. And I put it in and I watched it. And yeah, it looks like shit on the screen. You can't make a lot of it out. The version that's on YouTube right now, you could make out more in it than I could that
Yeah, yeah, I thought it looked
VHS.
fine. I tell you, like, and that's another comparison to Home Sweet Home that I'll give. Is that version that's on YouTube is about? It's not really any difference in quality than what you would watch Home Sweet Home.
Yeah.
Not to me at least. I mean, they're not great or anything. They're not some big, you know, millions of dollar budget film, you know, being put out to have that type of quality. So I mean, I don't. If anybody knows, let me know. What was the budget for Terror on Tour? Does anybody
Terror on
know that?
Tour. I thought me and Steve looked it up at one time. Give me just a second here. Somebody like TJ might be able to say before I find it.
I would imagine it couldn't be anything over 10,000 for that time. I mean, I could be wrong.
I'm willing to bet it's not, that much. Uh, shoot.
Mayor says, speaking of clown-based horror movies, I'd highly recommend Circus of the Dead. Okay,
I don't think I've seen that one.
I've never heard of that one. So I'll be honest though, like I'm not afraid of clowns or anything, but as far as like clowns and horror, other than it and a couple others like that, I enjoy the Killjoy movies from Full Moon
Right.
and you know there's just a few here and there. But mostly like it's I don't know. I'm not into the whole clown horror stuff. But the It, I mean, of course, I love It. Pennywise is iconic.
Well, I'm not finding the budget listed. So if TJ or anybody else knows what the budget was for Terror on Tour and you can find out, please share. Candace says, I'm a huge fan of the video Dead, so don't worry, Dana. LOL. People don't seem to like it very much either. And see, I love the video Dead.
Yeah, too. I really do. But, you know, I never thought about that before, but Darren makes a good point. He says the video Dead owes a lot to demons, too. Yeah, I guess, you know, they are similar in some ways. But, yeah, I love the video Dead.
I find it a lot of fun, but of course, people say, well, you can't trust what Dana says. She likes, Terror on Tour. She likes Final Exam. She likes all this other stuff. And even my own husband says that you can't really trust my judgment on movies. I probably mispronounced it all over the place, TJ. But I never claimed to know exactly how to pronounce every word in the dictionary. So you'll just have to look over me if I stumble over some of these the words. But I also wanted to get like Chris's take and everybody in the chat their take on. Well, I know what most of y'all are going to say. It's a piece of shit, and these other movies are better. But Chris, if you were to compare, well, I guess I should say, have you seen like Rocktober Blood and Black Roses? I know you've seen Trick or Treat.
Oh, yeah, I know where you're going with this. As far as like rock horror.
Yeah, how does it
how would I like compare that to like where would it like rank at? I guess you could say.
Yeah.
Well, I don't know because I've never seen Hard Rock Zombies, but I've heard kind of mixed things about it, so I can't really compare it to that. Now, Black Roses or Trick or Treat, now I would, those are leaps and bounds,
right?
More interesting to me. I won't say I don't want to use the phrase better because I don't like doing that. I don't like saying, well, that movie's better than that. Because that's just it's all personal preference. So I'll just say that it's more interesting. Those films are more interesting to me than Terror on Tour. Now with Rocktober Blood, I don't feel the same about it as I do like Black Roses or Trick or Treat, but I would probably have to put it above Terror on Tour as well. It is a bit more interesting to me at least. But yeah, I mean, But I'm like I said, as far as Terror on Tour goes, like it's not a great movie. It's not like an award winning film or anything.
Right.
But there's a lot of horror movies that are not typically award winning films or the greatest thing you've ever saw.
Mhm.
But it just, it holds a little bit of specialness to some people, at least, and Dana particularly. It holds specialness to her, and there's stuff, I have films like that's kind of that I would champion, that I know people have put down. Like Popcorn is my favorite slasher.
Yeah.
Uh,
I
it
love popcorn.
and I know of people that have absolutely shit on Popcorn and say it was stupid and stuff like that, and it didn't make any sense. I'm like, well, I mean, it kind of does. Maybe you're just putting too much hate into it that you don't want it to
It's
make sense.
clouding your perception of the movie.
But yeah, I mean, it's all personal preference is what it is with anything.
Mhm. Now, Mayor says, here's a hot take. He doesn't like October Blood or Black Roses.
Oh wow. Well, I mean,
So maybe, I mean, how do you feel, Mayor, about Trick or Treat? Because that's usually one that people, if they're going to talk about rock horror movies, that's one that they put at the top of
I
their
tell you
list.
something. I'm not sure. I can't remember who released that DVD of Trick or Treat. The one that has like the skull in the background. And it has a picture of Ozzy and Gene Simmons on the
Yeah,
cover.
that's the one I've got too. It wasn't
And
like Image or anything like that, was it?
I don't remember who released that, but and I get why they put that cover out for that because of you know Gene Simmons and Ozzy Osbourne are huge names in like the music industry, and that's what that movie is. It's just it's a music movie, a music horror film, and they were using that to, I guess, sell those DVDs. But
Oh, yeah, definitely.
personally, for me, I feel like that was a really dumb decision, and kind of slap in the face to the people, the horror fans that knew that what that movie was before it came out on DVD and loved it. Because to me, like that, the image that you see that's on the original VHS box and the original posters, that is one of the most awesome like
Yeah,
horror
I agree.
posters in my opinion that there ever been. Like the big image of Sammy Kerr on there, and
Mhm.
like I have the one that has Sammy Kerr and it has like Ragman down below. Mark, I think his name's Mark Price. I think that's his
Yeah,
name. It's
Skippy from
yeah.
Family Ties.
So, but yeah, like when they released that DVD, um, at the time when they released it, I didn't know what the movie was,
Mhm.
but I I liked Ozzy and Kiss was my favorite band. It still is. So in a way, it was also a smart decision. So it made me buy the movie because it had Ozzy and Gene Simmons on the cover of the DVD. But looking at it now, like I said earlier, my opinion changed on something, because I was only buying it because it had Ozzy and Gene Simmons on the cover. But now I look at it's like, well, if I had knew what the movie was beforehand, I would have chose the original poster art any day over that
Yeah,
cover of Gene Simmons and Ozzy.
I think that was a cop out on their part. Just whoever put that out,
Yeah.
that they were just wanting to cash in on Ozzy Osbourne and Gene Simmons. I'll be totally honest with you, Chris. The very first time I watched Trick or Treat, I think I rented it.
Hmm.
And I knew who Gene Simmons and Ozzy Osbourne were, but I did not know that they were in the film.
Right.
So that made no difference in my, uh, interest in the movie at that point.
Um, and I also kind of chalk that up to laziness too, because that wasn't the only horror film that was released on DVD that had a questionable cover. There's been a lot of horror films released on DVD with like just really bad artwork, stuff that doesn't make sense. It's on the cover, stuff that's not even
Plot
included in the
synopsis
film.
that doesn't make sense, like Death Screams. The original like synopsis on the back of the VHS box makes absolutely no sense. I don't know what movie this person was watching before they did this little blurb on the back, but it must have not been Death Screams or House of Death because
And not to get off topic here, Dana, but like one other thing that really does bother me about DVD releases, Blu-ray releases, is that whenever let's take an actor who started out small, but they end up becoming a big A-list actor, like later on in their career. So when they re-release a movie on DVD or Blu-ray, even if that person had a super small role in the film, they're
yeah,
like top billed on like the DVD covers and stuff, as if like
yep,
they're the star of the movie.
yep.
But
I
they
don't like that
only
either.
it's a cop out thing where they're using that their name to bring sales for that movie on whatever format it's been released on. And I think one that I kind of stood out to me one time like that was Class of 1984, and it had Michael J. Fox listed like top bit on the cover. And he has a very small role in Class of 1984.
Yeah, he does.
But they only did that because at the time of that release of that, whatever that was on DVD, he was a big name by then. He was probably one of the biggest stars to come out of the 80s.
Yeah.
With Back to the Future and everything. And I get why they do that, but I don't agree with it.
Right. Exactly. And the reverse of that I don't like either. When somebody's new and they're in some low budget horror and then a few years down the road they bust out and they're the biggest thing in Hollywood. I'm not saying it's the actors and actresses necessarily, but the powers that be, their agents, say, oh, no, 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 you can't put their names on that low budget piece of crap horror movie they were on before they were famous. I don't like that kind of business either because you should be proud of your roots. I'm sorry. Uh, a lot of people have been in horror films starting out.
And while it's not horror, but George Lucas kind of does that with Howard the Duck. Like he doesn't want to be associated at all with that film. And there's a lot of people that do hate on Howard the Duck, and there's a lot of controversy based on some of those cast members that's come out, in the past several years. But I still love that movie. I grew up loving Howard the Duck,
Yeah.
and I mean, it's just one of those things where like it doesn't stuff happens in real life sometimes, but it doesn't really affect how I feel about a film.
Right. Exactly. Good point. Let's see. I know there was something else I wanted to bring up about Terror on Tour. Oh, Chris, I wanted to ask you, and anybody else can answer too in the chat. But how did you feel about the pacing of Terror on Tour? Did you find it to be too slow? Because I've heard it's very slow and nothing happens for long stretches of the time.
I mean, not really, but I mean, also kind of, yeah. I mean, so I'm, again, like I said in the beginning of this, I'm on the fence with
On the
this movie.
fence.
Because, I honestly don't really know how I still fully feel about it. I don't think I've had enough time.
Maybe you haven't digested it all yet.
But I just do know, like it was, like I said before, it's not something that I feel like I will want to watch again. I'm not
Mhm.
saying that I won't watch it again. I mean, I could end up, changing my mind on that. So I'm gonna watch this movie again. But as of right now, I just
Mhm.
really, I don't really have any interest in watching it again, because like it. But like I said, I'm not going to be dishonest and just say it's a piece of shit or anything like that, because I can't say that.
Right.
There was things that just kind of piqued my interest, with the band itself being one of them.
Right.
And then, and and it kind of plays into that too. Like they're like Kiss, because Kiss always had this reputation of sleeping with countless women every
Yeah.
night, and you see that in the film, like when like it shows one band member, he's like hanging out with these like two women, and they're like, they're being affectionate with him and everything. And then here comes another band member. He says, "Hey, you're needed downstairs in the blood room," or something
Yeah,
like
and he's gonna go down there with that girl in the
that. Yeah.
black underwear and
So they switch out, like, so the one guy leaves to go be with a girl down there, and the other guy that came and got him just sits down with the two girls that the other guy was with before. So I was like, that's definitely like,
well,
stories you
yeah,
hear from
like
kids.
most rock stars that
Yeah,
we
just any rock stars in general, but I know there's been like some crazy stories out there. Like Gene Simmons is like slept with like a million women or something like that. And
well, he
there's
don't have the energy to do that. Even if he was young, I have to be skeptical of stuff like that.
yeah. Yeah, and but it's just little things like that about the movie. So, uh, I'm not one to overanalyze things. If I find things, even if the movie is a really bad movie, if there's things in it that I absolutely think is funny, or it kind of like, oh, that's kind of intrigues me, I'm just going to be flat out honest with you. And I'm sure a lot of people, I'm not saying people are being dishonest, but there's probably a lot of people that just flat out hate this movie and just don't like anything about it. And that's fine. But I think that's what's interesting about all of this, is that, while we can agree to an extent to where it's, things about the movie are not great, uh,
Right. And
there
I've
are,
obviously said that. It's not a great piece of cinema, and it definitely has its flaws. Like I would say the worst thing for me about this film is not the band. It's not the killings in it. It's the damn women in it. The women are the stupidest women I've ever seen. They talk stupid, they act stupid. They're groupies
well,
essentially.
that's how that mindset is with a lot of those, because there were women that are really like that, and that I
Mhm,
think that they played into that well with
mhm,
the whole groupies thing with for
yeah,
this for the band in this movie, because there's, if you've ever watched Almost Famous,
yep. I
uh,
love almost.
so look at the groupies in Almost Famous. They're the same way. And
Yeah,
that's just like that's a stereotype, because there was women that would follow these bands in
yeah,
real life, like Kiss or the Rolling Stones, or Aerosmith, who all these rock bands that were around the same time. They had all these women just following them on the regular, and the only thought in their mind was like, hey, how fast can I have sex with the band members?
yeah. That's the only thing on their mind. There's
And
not.
that's
There's
and
no.
that's exactly what it is in this movie with the groupies in this movies. And I think that was, they played on that really well. And that was, I guess you just got to have like an interest in those type of things, because like I said, like it appealed to me because the band was like Kiss, and that's my favorite
Right.
band of all time. So, but there's a lot of people out there that don't like Kiss, and people
Mhm,
that have liked Kiss, but they don't like them any longer because they're
yeah.
like, they call them corporate sellouts and stuff like that. But they ain't got to worry about it now, because Kiss is not even a band anymore. So they finally retired. Maybe, I don't know. They might,
Finally.
they could come back. Who knows? Um, but
uh,
yeah, I mean, it's just
but
it's interesting.
But I will say, and I'm not trying to defend myself. That is not the whole purpose of this stream for Dana to defend herself or defend this movie. This is just a discussion.
Yeah.
This is a good, healthy debate. That's what I want to have with these streams. So I am not here to tell you that that is a great piece of cinema. If I did say that, I would be lying because this is not a great piece of cinema. It's not going to be on anybody's probably top 5 list if you do a top 5 or top 10 list or anything. If you're like Rob and High Fidelity and you like to to make top 5 list, I don't think it's going to make anybody's top 5 list. Here's why I ultimately enjoy Terror on Tour. It is a fun little time waster. Nothing more, nothing less. It's something I can either watch or I can put on in the background while I'm doing other things. It takes absolutely zero concentration.
Right.
And sometimes it's just all I need, you
And
know.
TJ says it's a bunch of random scenes, but they throw in a couple scenes to add some sort of plot. I I can kind of see what you're saying, but mostly to me there was a story there.
But yeah, there was a story there. It was about this band playing these shows, and somebody was killing
Yeah,
people off at
and
their
it's
show.
and with that, that's really not much different from a lot of the plots from slasher films.
Yeah.
Um, it's like you don't know the reasoning for the whole movie as why this person is killing it, but it's revealed somewhat in the end. And that's what happened here with this movie. I mean, there was this band just going around playing shows, and then their manager is the one is helping them get the shows and everything, and at the same time, all these killings are happening and stuff, and they think the band is some way related to those killings, so there's an investigation going on.
And there's even Herb, one of the roadies. He's a red herring.
Yeah, exactly, and that's one of the things. Like in the beginning of the movie, the way he acts when he's putting the makeup on and everything in the mirror, you're thinking the film is trying to trick you into thinking, oh, he's the one that's going to be the killer in this.
Yeah.
But and they do that a lot in slasher films and other horror films, to where there's a red herring, and then there's a twist in the end of who the actual killer is. And like you said, even though I couldn't really remember it, but I asked that question earlier, like what was his motivation to kill it? And you mentioned that the part about Herb finding the letter, which explains it to an extent. And looking back at some of the scenes in the film, it kind of they make it a little bit obvious because there's always clues of like who the killer is.
Yeah.
And there is a scene where they're sitting there in this room, out of costume and everything with their manager, and there's like the detective there, and he's like asking them questions and all that. And then one of the band members says something about their manager, like, well, he wouldn't hurt a fly.
Exactly. Yeah. That's a big, huge red flag right there.
Yeah. I mean, so that kind of like leads you to be suspicious about that guy now. Like he still, if you've never seen the film, you could say, well, he could be the killer, but they could just be doing that to try to trick us into something else, because they use Herb as a red herring at the beginning of the film. So, but of course, in the end, it is their manager that is the killer. And I will say one other thing about that I did find interesting about was the ending of this, as it just cuts to the credits as the manager is like has attacked Herb on stage
And
and
he's
is
just
killing him.
basically screaming, "Stop,
Yeah,
stop."
and there's really no like resolution to the
No.
killings.
Just everybody's just looking on in shock,
And yeah, and that's like a almost like a Sopranos thing. I don't know if you've ever watched The Sopranos, but
Yeah,
um,
it's been a while, but
but the ending is one of the most controversial endings in TV history, and because it just ends, and you just don't you're kind of left to just make your own conclusions.
mhm,
And I think that's what happened here at the end of this movie. Is like it after he's killing, he's young, stop, and then it just fades to credits. So
yeah.
you're just kind of like, oh, what happened? Like, and then you come up with the scenarios in your head of like what happened beyond that. Um, so
Right.
yeah, I'll just say that too. That was a interesting thing to me about it.
Well, one thing I would like to bring up because TJ talked about, basically they had one song that they were playing throughout the film. Now, I would just like to share with anybody and everybody that cares and maybe didn't know. The band that played the clowns was a real band.
Yeah,
The names, which if you go back, and I think they were from Rockford, Illinois. They were from the same part of the country that Cheap Trick was from. And if you listen to their music is not exactly like Cheap Trick, but
hmm
it's similar. Now, keep in mind, I'm not talking about the clowns' music. I'm talking about the music by the names. And their music, in my opinion, is quite good. You can find some of it on YouTube to listen to. And they had actually broken up as a band before they were asked to be a band in Terror on Tour. But I guess they were still, even though they had broken up as a band, they were still friendly with each other. So I don't know. The clown stuff was interesting in the movie, but if I had to listen to some music that maybe I could relate to more, the music by the names, the actual band would be more my cup of tea than the stuff about, I'm going to kill you. We're going to send you home in a box, type of thing, which is actually a quote that one of the guys does from the end of one of the songs. He says, "Go home or we'll kill you. We'll kill every one of you. We'll cut you into pieces and send you home in a box." And that's just part of their stick, part of
yeah.
their act.
And that kind of, and I seen this question from TJ. He says, besides maybe the makeup, what makes him like Kiss to you, Crater? Well, I mean, their sound and their stage theatrics, just like how Dana was just talking about how they have that gimmick on stage. Um, Kiss does that same thing, and and a lot of like the killing and the dismemberment of like that the clowns do in this movie is a lot like Alice Cooper too, which is one of the biggest inspirations for Kiss because Ace Frehley, before they became Kiss, he went to an Alice Cooper concert and he was watching Alice Cooper and he's seen how Alice would wear the makeup with the lines over his eyes and all the different stage theatrics he would do during his show. That Ace was like, let's do that. Let's make that a part of our personas.
Yeah.
Um, and there's just a lot there. Like I said, not just because they're painted up and they're wearing the costumes and everything, and that's similar to Kiss. But just like I said, their sound, because some of the song that they're playing in the movie, just sounds like Kiss's sound to me, and the biggest thing there is the stage theatrics, because that's to me the whole thing with Kiss and the stage show they do. That's one of the biggest reasons they appeal to me, and that's why Alice Cooper appeals to me. And I've seen Alice Cooper like 5 times now, and it's one of the greatest shows I've ever seen. So a band like the Clowns in this, what they're doing, if they were a real band, I would probably go and watch them
Mhm.
because and it doesn't and that's not necessarily because of their music or anything, but it's just that the stage show, and to me your performance on stage at a live concert is everything, whether the music is good or not. You know, your stage presence and what you present to your audience is the most important thing.
I agree.
And like I said, I've seen Alice Cooper, I've seen Kiss, Guar is another band like that. They're all about their stage show, and because if you know anything about Guar, that's one of their big things. It's kind of like the Clowns in this. They're like killing
Yeah,
people, like they bring a lot of celebrity stuff. Like they kill Donald Trump, they kill Britney Spears, they
yeah.
kill like Paris Hilton, all these different celebrities. And it's a Guar is an interesting show if you've never seen them live.
You got me interested in seeing them live, but I doubt Steve would ever take me if he.
There's a lot of fake blood. Like they shoot fake blood all over the
Oh
crowd and
wow!
everything. So it's a hell of a show.
I wanted to see Alice Cooper when he came to Louisville like a few years ago, and Steve was like, I don't want to go see Alice Cooper, Dana.
Alice,
But I've never seen Alice Cooper in concert, but I would
one of
love
the best shows you'll ever see, Dana. And
to.
I'll use this as an example of one of the last time I seen Alice Cooper was in Louisville at the Louder Than Life Festival. And there was a couple behind me in the crowd, and I heard them like talking throughout the day and stuff, because we kind of stood in that same location a lot of the day, watching different bands. But it seemed to me like they had either just met, or they were like on a Tinder date or something. And then after Alice Cooper played, I heard the guy say, "What did you think about him?" And she said something like, "Well, that sucked. That was like one of the worst shows I've ever seen."
Wow.
And the guy left her high and dry. He said, if you don't like Alice Cooper, this ain't gonna work out. And he just like left her standing there by herself. And I'm sorry, but I had to laugh. I was like, oh my gosh. I was like, if you that's a culture shock to me. Like if you didn't know who Alice Cooper was, you never heard his music, but then you go and see him live, and then and you sit through the whole show with this person, and the person afterward tells you that they thought it sucked, it's one of the worst shows they've ever seen. That's upsetting.
I got a theory on that, Chris. Maybe it was an awful first date for this girl, and she just wanted to get rid of him.
Who knows? But I thought that was just so funny. Like me and CJ laughed so much about that afterwards.
Another question I wanted to ask, and people are going to say, well, please, for the love of God, don't keep going on about Terror on Tour. But that's what this stream's supposed to be about.
Yeah.
But
complaining, you can get out.
No. But what I want to know is, does anybody know who the guy playing Tim, the manager, is? Little quiz time for you.
Trivia. Are you
Trivia.
asking me or just people in chat?
Well, anybody that knows.
So I didn't recognize the guy from anything else. I didn't recognize anybody in this from anything else.
TJ probably knows, but TJ's trying to block this movie out. Candace says, I've seen Alice 3 times, and he's amazing every time. The first time I seen him, he was opening for the Stones at the first concert at Churchill Downs with Eric Singer from Kiss on drums. Yeah. That whole thing sounds amazing.
Yeah, it's really the first time I ever seen Alice Cooper was in 2006, and I believe that was the same year that Candace saw Alice Cooper with the Rolling Stones was in 2006. But me and Candace didn't know each other at the time.
Yeah,
and I'll tell another story about that here in a minute. But we went and she went and seen him with the Rolling Stones at Churchill Downs, and I actually saw him that same year in Pikeville, and I believe it was Sebastian Bach opened up for him at the Pikeville show I went to. But yeah, Eric Singer from Kiss was the drummer for Alice Cooper at that time, and I remember, and I wish I had done it now because I do this with a lot of things. I regret not buying something or picking something up in the past, and I kick myself for it over and over. But after that show at the merch stand, they were selling drum heads signed by Eric Singer,
Wow.
and I think they were just like $40. And I was like, oh my gosh, why didn't I get that? But the other story I wanted to tell was that there was another concert I went to in 2006 in Huntington, West Virginia, and it was Guns N' Roses, or Guns N' Roses. It was basically just Axl and a bunch of other random guys who weren't really ever in Guns N' Roses. But anyway, found out later when me and Candace met, started dating, that she was at that very same show in Huntington, West Virginia
Wow.
in 2006. So it's even possible that we could have ran across one another and didn't even know it.
Yeah. Isn't that wild?
Yeah, there's other stuff like that too that Candace could probably tell you at another time, but
Mm.
just a lot of stuff kind of like it's, I call it fate, and I call it
Yeah, fate was conspiring to get you guys together. Y'all just kept missing each other
I call
occasionally.
it everything. When I say everything happens for a reason, I firmly believe that, because there is just so much, like, and Candace and me were just talking about this one thing the other day, like how we were both doing this particular thing during the same time frame that involved this other person. And well, I'll just tell it. Heck, I mean, so basically, years ago, I want to maybe like early or mid 2000s. I grew up in Floyd County, and over near Prestonsburg, there was this flea market called the Bull Creek Flea Market. And there would be this lady that would come up and set up something, and she would have nothing but books, like boxes and boxes of books on her table. And she would, always ask me if there's anything I was looking for in particular. And I said, yeah, I like Stephen King. So she sold me a bunch of Stephen King books for just like $1 a piece. And then she said she had more stuff like that that she would hunt out for me, and she would keep for me, when I came back to her. Okay, so I can't remember if I told this story to Candace first or she told it to me, but we figured out that we were linked in that because over at the Hazard Flea Market during that same time frame, that lady was going over there
Mhm.
and setting up, and Candace would do the same thing. She would buy Stephen King books from that lady, and Candace tells the story at like this, that the lady told her that there was another boy that she sold books to that was always looking for Stephen King books. But she said she would tell Candace, but I hold the good ones back for you though. So unbeknownst to me, I was getting slighted by this lady. But it's so interesting, like, because that's like, to me, like, I come back to fate, because that boy she was talking about had to have been me. At least that's my thought process on it.
Yeah, I mean, that would be my thought process too.
But
I
but yeah, it's just, there's some like interesting stuff, and what me and Candace are like connected to, and just like,
mm,
yeah, it just fate is all it was to me.
just had to hit the right point in time in y'all's lives to
Yeah,
connect.
yeah.
Uh, TJ, are you saying that the guy that played the manager is the douche from Boarding House? Well, no, actually, the douche you're referring to, John Wintergate from Boarding House, is in Terror on Tour, but he's in the audience. He's one of the audience members. Him and his wife are both in a few scenes. But the guy I'm talking about is Larry Thomas, who, if you watch Seinfeld, and I know some of you are not big Seinfeld fans, but he played the Soup Nazi. Now they have to call him the Soup Nazi. They can't call him the Soup Nazi anymore. But he played the Soup Nazi, the one that said, "No soup for you."
The guy that played the manager played him.
That's him.
No shit, really?
I'm serious, yeah.
No, that ain't the same guy, is it?
It is. I swear to you.
Wow. He
Look
looks
it up on
so
Internet
different.
Movie Database if you don't believe me, Chris.
I believe you. It's just wild because he doesn't look anything like what he look. Which I'm not a fan of Seinfeld anyway.
Right,
Um,
yeah.
like I don't get it. I'm sorry if there's anybody that's fans of Seinfeld, but I can't stand Jerry Seinfeld. And that's really what's keeping me from watching that show or getting into
Right.
it because I'm sure, like I've seen like clips with the Kramer character and everything, and it's pretty funny, but like, yeah, I, I know there's a lot of like lists on the internet stuff that say that Seinfeld is the greatest show of all time.
No, I wouldn't go that
I
far.
don't know. I mean,
But I did interview Larry Thomas way back when I was doing the Blood Type fanzine. I wanted to get more people from, um, and actually, I'll bring this out here in just a second. I have a really super long message from Larry Thomas that's more recent. I'll share a little bit with y'all. But back when I was doing the Blood Type fanzine, I tried to contact several people from Terror on Tour, and Larry Thomas was one that responded to me and said that he would do an interview with me. And so one of the first few issues of Blood Type fanzine, I have a Larry Thomas interview, and he's a very nice guy, likes talking and stuff like that, but he's very critical of his performance in Terror on Tour. He said he was new to acting at that time, and he says he's kind of embarrassed about it because he says if you watch him in the film, he's almost kind of wooden, like he was nervous. And there are certain scenes, I think he mentioned where one of the guys is playing like bumper pool or whatever, and Tim, the manager, comes over and is talking to him, and he's got his hands on the pool table. And he says, I was so nervous. He said there was another scene where he was talking to the manager of the venue where the clowns were doing their concert, and he was told that there would be loud music playing in the background. And so he says, it appears that I'm screaming at this other guy because there was no loud music, but I was told there was going to be loud music in the scene. So naturally, I'm, screaming my lines to the other guys.
yeah.
But he was one of those fun interviews. But let me see if I won't read it all to you guys and gals, but I tried to get him to come on there live whenever I did the Terror on Tour watch along that I did. Um, and I sent him a message on Facebook, and he didn't get back with me, quickly or anything. But when he did, he wrote me this really kind of a apologetic thing because he wanted to do it, but he couldn't because he was having I think there was going to be a birthday party for him, and he said, "I'm the guest of honor. It wouldn't do for me to to be late for my own uh, my own birthday party." Oh, come on, Dana. I can't spell tonight, folks. That's what's bad about it. There he is.
Let's see. I was going to mention something real quick while you're looking for that, Dana. I was looking at my YouTube channel last night of all like my different subscriptions, channels I subscribe to,
Uh-huh.
and I seen that I was still subscribed to your old YouTube channel.
Oh,
And
wow, there's a blast from the past right there.
So I went through there looking on the videos, and there's like the On the Road from Scarefest 2009 with your cousin Heather, and there was a select amount of videos on there that I was like, it piqued my interest. Like, oh, I've never seen these before, and I feel like it would be something you should revamp on your new channel at some point. Is that there are like I think it's like 4 or 5 different videos you did
Uh-huh.
of your horror magazine collection, and
Oh, yeah, yeah, I
you're
remember
like showing off
that.
all your Fangorias and all that stuff.
Mhm.
And see, and I would love for you to cover that stuff like that again, like on your new channel, because that's something that I personally love. Is I love magazines, and not just like horror magazines, but I like toy magazines and music magazines and just sci-fi and all, a lot of magazines. Like I did have a subscription to this magazine in the past year. I really need to subscribe to it again because it's worth it. You get it's like 12 issues for like $12 or something. So basically like $1 an issue. It's called
Right.
Remind Magazine.
Uh-huh.
So it focuses on like a lot of classic TV. It does a lot of advertising for that channel Me TV, which has like the classic TV shows and stuff on it. And it covers like it has like a 1950 section in the magazine, 1960, 1970s, 1980s, and 1990s. I always get the Halloween issues because like they've they really awesome covers. Like the past, they've had for 1 year around Halloween, they had Dracula, Bela Lugosi's Dracula on the cover. Then another year they had Lon Chaney Jr. as the Wolfman, and they've had one as with the monsters on the cover. A couple of years ago, they did a Halloween retrospective, and it had Michael Myers on the cover.
Right.
And
That's
it's
cool.
it's a really cool magazine. But yeah, I just love magazines in general, and I loved finding those videos that you've done in the past.
Well, I don't know if anybody wants to dig those up, but if you go digging on YouTube, you'll probably find some of
Hey,
my.
I liked them. Hey, it's a
Well,
fun
yeah,
time.
but you're nice, Chris, and you're also one of my best friends. You and Candace are. So uh,
I feel the same.
I did find that. See how long that message is? That's
Oh
probably why.
wow, is that the message from him?
Yeah, he says, "Ha ha, oh my." I think the most memorable thing to bring up is, and he gave me like an interview in and of itself, and I didn't even ask for it here, but it was nice of him to do it.
Dang, you should have published that, Dana.
Yeah, as my actor friends agree, I did the best example of how not to do the I had to do it speech in horror film history. It was my very first film, and I was in college theater taking my very first acting classes and had no idea what I was doing. I drove a friend to audition for Terror on Tour because he was too nervous to drive. Don Edmonds, who was the director of the film, saw me sitting there waiting and asked me to read for Tim. I told him I wasn't actually an actor yet, but I was taking classes. He insisted, so I read and he cast me. What a ride. Unfortunately, that night, and he was talking about the night I was going to do the watch along. He said,
Mhm.
I'm appearing at a party with me as the main guest, so I won't be able to, but you're welcome to tell those couple of stories from me. Another fun fact was years later, my good friend Mitzi Capture and I talked about Dawn as he directed her in the pilot for Silk Stockings. I showed her the I had to do it speech, and after that, whenever I mentioned something I had to do it, she would always imitate me in the crazy voice I use. And Chris, you remember that part in the movie where he's like, I had to kill him. Can't you see, Herb? I had to kill him.
Yeah.
He said, I had to do it, Herb. Also, notice the two scenes where I'm talking to the film's producer, Sandy Coe. My hair is much shorter because we shot them a year later. So there's an interesting little tidbit. You'll notice that Tim's hair is actually shorter because
Hmm.
they shot some scenes a year apart. I was told to talk really loudly as there would be loud music. They left the music out, so I'm practically yelling in his face and he's talking in a normal voice because he wasn't an actor and couldn't really follow that direction. Oh, and also all the girls I killed backstage were ad-libbing. None of that dialogue was written. So Don just let them ad-lib and that's why it's so bad.
Mm.
So you got a few hot takes there straight from the horse's mouth, pretty much.
And I don't know why I forgot this, but there's another like brief scene in the movie that was it made me laugh. It was like because they do it like within they do it twice, and they're both within like a couple minutes of one another. So I guess like one of the band members just got done having sex with one of the groupies or whatever, and it
Mhm.
shows him stand up, and it like zooms in on his crotch, and he's like zipping his
Yes,
pants back
we
up.
talked about
And,
that thing too.
and then like a couple minutes later, they do it again.
Here's something else I want to know. In that same portion of the film where the scenes you just talked about happen,
Mm-hmm.
I think it's the first guy that you see the close up of his crotch and he's zipping up his pants, and then it goes up to his face. What in the hell is he getting out of his teeth? Is he like taking a hair out of
Oh
his
yeah,
tooth or what?
maybe,
Maybe it's one of the girl's hair it got in his teeth.
maybe, possibly.
But there's a lot of, I'm not even going to lie to you guys and gals, there's a lot of goofy stuff in that film. But I find it fun. I mean, is it wrong to find a movie fun? I don't think
And
so.
there's goofy stuff in some of the films that people consider the greatest movies of all time. But
Yeah.
I feel like a little bit of goofiness doesn't hurt, and I think it adds some specialness and makes stuff when there's goofiness and stuff. I feel like it makes it memorable, whether you like it or not. It's memorable though. Like a lot
Yeah.
of people hating on this movie, like you may not like it, and that's fine. That's your prerogative, but you remember it, right? You
Yeah,
remember
that,
things
that's
about
a good that's a good point to make. So remember that, guys and gals. Every time you hate on this movie publicly, that's one more what do you want to call it? I don't want to call it golden star, but that's one more person that you may get interested in going and watching that film. Now they may watch it and they may hate it as much as you do, but you're giving credit to this movie by saying, "Oh, that's the shittiest movie I ever made," and y'all may call bullshit on that. You may do it, but Chris, am I lying? When somebody talks about a movie, whether they talk really poorly of it, or they
it.
talk highly of it, or they talk about it being so controversial that it got
Mhm.
pulled out of 100 theaters or something,
It's pulling
any kind of
attention.
controversy makes something, at least a few people are going to want to go watch it because of that. Because they just want to see how bad it is. How
Yeah,
bad can it
because
possibly be?
there's a quote. I don't know who said this, but I know I've heard a lot of people use it where they say, any kind of feedback is good feedback. Whether it be positive or negative, it's good because you're bringing attention to that particular thing. So if someone is out there, talking crap on a movie or a band or whatever they're talking about, and if they're it's all negative feedback that they're providing, it's still feedback, and it's still bringing eyes on what you're saying about that particular thing. And
Mhm.
it makes people like, oh, I don't know about this stuff. Maybe I should check that out and see what it is. And then it gets, a whole chain of events occurring, like a chain reaction
Yeah.
of people, whether it's like I'll use the Twilight movies for example because there was a huge following from a certain group of people, but then there was also people that was crapping all over and saying it's horrible looking, it's stupid, and I was one of them people.
I was one of them
I was
too.
one of them, but at the same time, that is just adding fuel to the fire, that's behind whatever that thing may be. And it just so, like I said, any feedback is good feedback.
And TJ says, I like the Edmonds Ilsa movie better. Well, I mean, I can't say I'm a fan of Ilsa, but I'm not going to shit on it either because, frankly, I don't know a whole lot about it. I think maybe Steve has watched it, and I know it's one of them like Nazi
Mm.
exploitation movies and stuff like that. Which, if that's your cup of tea, that's your cup of tea. I watched that Gestapo's Last Orgy, and I didn't much care for that thing, and that's what that was. That was more of that kind of stuff, and I think the only reason people watch some of those things is not to get off on it, because Lord knows, I hope nobody would get off on that.
I think it's just curiosity.
It's curiosity and just to see how far they will go with it.
Yeah.
Um, Now the Ilsa movie may be a little bit better than some of those run of the mill ones. Like I said, I'm not really sure. Um, but yes, TJ, too, I know you and Blissful have reminded me that I need to ask people 2 to 3 months in advance. Um, and and I do, if I want somebody to stand a chance to be on there. But sometimes I think about it at the last minute or something, and I know what's the better way to do it. It's just that sometimes, like I said, I don't think of it till the last minute, and then some people may be okay and be able to come on there. Some people told me they just didn't see it until after it was over. Um, like the uh, Daryl Wilcher from Sleepaway Camp 3. I wanted to ask him to be on the watch along I did for Sleepaway Camp 3.
Do you have him on Facebook or something?
Yeah, yeah,
I didn't even know that guy had social media.
yeah, yeah.
I
He's
love Sleepaway Camp 3.
I like them all.
Yeah, yeah, me too.
For
Well, I don't know. Have you seen Return to Sleepaway Camp?
well, okay, except that.
Okay. All right. I was about to
I
wonder.
didn't know we were including that one in there, but yeah, I don't know what. Good gracious. See, you're going to hear me talk badly about a movie. I don't understand how Robert Hiltzik could make the original film and then come back and make
Yeah.
Return to Sleepaway Camp. I'm like, it just blows my
Good
mind.
question, ain't it? That's definitely one that'll make you think. Maybe we should cover that sometime.
We can. We definitely can.
Maybe that would make a good apples and oranges episode. The
Yeah.
comparing the original Sleepaway Camp with the Return to Sleepaway Camp.
We can do it. We can do it. Upcoming, we'll do that one. Something else I could never understand how Mayor Zarky could make the original "I Spit on Your Grave" and then years later makes that basically direct sequel to it, Deja Vu. That's the awfulest thing. One of the awfulest things I've ever seen. And I'm like, Mayor Zarky made a decent, you know, I guess I should say great revenge film back in the 70s with I Spit on Your Grave. And then years and years later, he made Deja Vu. And it's like, oh my God.
I was aware of that.
It's bad. You can watch it if you want, Chris, but it's like me and Steve were sitting there watching it. It was like, it's unbelievably bad. Let's see what Candace says. Candace says, stupid question. No, no stupid questions, but I'm genuinely interested. If you had to choose a camp horror film to be a camper at and try to survive in, which would it be and why? No, that's a good
I think
one.
I love that
I
question.
do, I do too. That's a very, very
Um,
good one.
if
I
I
got
had to
another
choose it,
thing.
that's tough because I mean, like my mind immediately goes to Camp Crystal Lake
Mine does too.
because Friday the 13th is my favorite film franchise. Or favorite horror film franchise. My favorite film franchise of all time is Planet of the Apes, the original Planet of the Apes.
Oh, that's interesting. I didn't know that, Chris.
But as far as horror goes, yeah, Friday the 13th is my favorite franchise. And then I think of Camp Arawak from Sleepaway Camp, and then also I want to say the campgrounds in Memorial Valley Massacre. Uh,
I
because
was gonna watch that on Memorial Day and I forgot to watch it.
And yeah, I mean, that's another movie that gets shit on, but it's parts of it.
I enjoy it
I like
too.
it. I've seen it multiple times, and it caught my interest enough for me to watch it multiple times.
I bought that dang thing on Blu-ray.
Um, then I can't remember the camp's name, but the one from The Burning, because they seemed like they were all like pretty laid back, and it seemed like that would be like a camp to be.
Was it Camp like Stonewater or something like that?
Something like that. I can't remember what it was. But I would choose one that was outside the horror genre. I would choose Heavyweights, the Camp and Heavyweights.
Ah,
You
yeah.
seen that one, Dana, with Ben Stiller?
I haven't seen that one. I was just thinking of one too that's non-horror, but Camp Nowhere. You remember that one?
Christopher Lloyd, and
Yeah.
yes, I love that movie. See, and Candace knows this better than anybody, but she knows that anytime that a film, where it be horror or whatever it be, if it's involved, like it has a camp in it, like Ernest Goes to Camp. I mean, I love that, like, because I don't know how many people, like, I don't know if you have or if anybody in chat has actually ever been to a summer camp, but I have, and it literally, when they say this will be the best week of your life, they're not kidding. Like, it was. Like, I made a lot of friends that I still know this day at the summer camps, and the stuff you see in the movies, like the swimming, and they have like in the movie Heavyweights, they have the big blob thing. The camp that I went to had that. They had like zip line stuff and all kinds of cool. It's like literally what you see in the movies with these like summer camps. That's I got to experience that. Well, minus the somebody trying to kill me part, but
Well, there's the Camp and Madman. There's also, here's another non-horror one, Camp North Star from Meatballs. Now, who wouldn't want to go to that camp?
Yeah.
Be around Bill Murray and all those people,
Which there is one that it's a movie I like, but it wouldn't be a camp that would pertain to me, and that's Cheerleader Camp.
Yeah.
That's a really fun one too, and it's really hard to find on DVD apparently.
Yeah, I've actually got it. I believe I've got it on DVD, but I bought it many, many moons ago.
Yeah, I don't have it, and I looked it up recently on eBay, and it's expensive now. So,
Candace says she actually went to summer camp and it was terrifying. See, I always wanted to go to summer camp, and Mom would never let me go because she was afraid that I would get homesick. I think it was also because Mom would miss me so much. She just didn't want to let me go. But we had camp in Dawson Springs. I think it was 4-H camp. 4-H camp every year was at Dawson Springs when I was a kid. But Mom would be like, "No, Dana, I don't think you need to go." And Steve went to summer camp one year, I think, and he wanted to come home, I think. I think he ended up coming home early because he was homesick.
The summer camp that I went to, like they had one building in there in particular that had like a bunch of different phones, and that
Mhm.
was something that they made everybody do. We had to call home every day, once a day, every day, because it was a 5 or 6 day camp.
Mhm.
It lasted about a full week, and every day there was a certain time we had to all go to this building, and then we all had to take, because it's so many certain people could be on phones at one time, but they didn't have, of course, they didn't have enough phones for every single camper there. So you just have to kind of wait in these lines to get to the phone. And that's something we were required to do while we were there, is to call home and let them know how everything was going every day.
I think that that's a good idea, actually, to have the kids do that. Um, Candace said Chris went to a big fancy summer camp.
I mean, it was a like a it was called Rock Bridge. It was in Rock Bridge, Virginia, and it was a Christian summer camp, is what it was. But I tell you, um, we did there was a nightly thing where we would have um, Bible study and stuff like that. But majority of the time we were just doing stuff that you seen in it that didn't have to do with Christianity or religion or anything like that. We were just doing like normal summer camp stuff. Like I said, we went biking, and they had games every day. They had competitions between like certain cabins and stuff,
Right.
and there was one day where they had it was boys versus girls, because they had two different sides of the camp. Like one side was all the boys cabins, and one side was all the girls cabins. So they did it's like a gender war thing they did on one day, where we did all these different games and races and stuff, and it was super fun. I mean, Candace says it was she calls it a big fancy summer camp, and it was, but it really didn't cost a whole lot. Cause what we did was, at that time, we raised the money, because I was part of a youth group at the time, and we just did like fundraisers, and bake sales and stuff, and within where we would have our youth group stuff, and to raise the money for us to go to that camp. And we did the same thing one year, where we raised money for all of us to go to Disney World down in Florida.
Yeah.
And we just, that's a time in my life I'll never forget, because I did a lot of fun stuff. I was about 16 years old, I guess, at the time.
But Candace says hers was like out of a literal horror film, so I don't think I'd want to go the one Candace went to. Uh,
Gosh.
but to answer her question more fully, it would probably be one of the Friday the 13th films. And no offense to Mrs. Voorhees, Betsy
Mhm.
Palmer's character in the first one, but if I was going to be at a camp in Friday the 13th universe, I would want to be in one of them where Jason was there. And because I'm a big, huge fan of Kane Hodder, I would want to be in the Friday the 13th Part 7 universe, because that's where Kane Hodder first made his appearance as Jason.
Mhm.
And so that's definitely what I'd want to run all over the camp and try to get away from Kane Hodder as Jason. I just think that would be really cool.
That would be neat.
Mm. Candace said, I remember it was the summer that Wild Wild West by Will Smith had taken over the world by storm, and girls booty dancing during the talent show with pillows stuffed down the back of their pants. TJ says Christian camp is the horniest camp. Just saying.
I mean, he's right to a degree. I mean, because um, especially when you're a teen, and you're focused on these your Christian values, if you're a Christian, but also at the same time, just life takes over.
Well, I mean, your hormones are raging at that age, so what
Yeah,
do
yeah.
people
So
expect?
leave
So
it at that. I ain't gonna get into no details.
Candace said, "What are you saying, Chris?" We won't go any further than that, I guess.
No, I'll tell you later.
There's probably stories that could get people in trouble now. Even now it could. But guys and gals, we've went on for just over a couple of hours. This has been another fun one. Um, Even though, as the British would say, people were trying to take the piss out of me a little bit earlier, uh, but it was all in good, clean fun. So I don't take offense. I did have a good time. I hope Chris had a good
Oh
time on
yeah,
this
at
one.
last.
And we'll definitely do the sleepaway camp versus return to sleepaway
Yeah, that
camp.
would be fun. That would definitely be fun, I think.
And so yeah, I want to thank Chris for being on here with me tonight, and I want to thank everybody in the chat. We had like around 20 people at one point in here. TJ says we barely talked about the movie, thank the Lord. Well, I think we talked about it enough. And I always like to, kind of mix it up a little bit and talk about a few different things. Thank you, Candace. Candace said it was a great live. Um, but be sure to tune in tomorrow night starting at 8 p.m. Eastern Time. And I'm going to be doing that triple threat review show for Seductive Poison: The Resurgence. And then me and Candace will return with Friday Foolish. Friday at 1 p.m. Eastern Time. We're going to be talking about weird and unique foods. So be sure to bring your list of weird and unique foods to discuss along with us. And I will also be doing Terror Time Tea at about 11:45 a.m. Eastern Time Friday. I'm going to be talking about a couple of movies and not having a snack this time. I had those almond cherry scones that Blissful gave me the recipe too, and those were just absolutely delicious, especially if you like cherries, and I do. I'm a huge fan of cherries. But I'll probably just be having tea and talking about movies this time. But anyway, um, as Ducky said at one point in Pretty in Pink, me and Chris are off like a dirty shirt. And and I also want to remind everybody, as I always try to do, to be kind to one another and blaze that trail. And we'll see everybody next time. So, good night, everybody.
All right, everybody, have a good night.